Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Siobhan. Thank you for joining me today as I share my journey living with heart failure. So before I get into it, I just want you to know that this video is not to give medical advice to anyone. If you are in some type of distress, or if you're looking up things to validate certain symptoms, please seek professional help. Go visit a doctor, get a checkup, and things like that. I'm simply sharing my experience as I have lived with heart disease for probably since I was 19, and I'm now 36 years old. So just sharing my experience, and I wanted to put out this video today. It's National Wear Red Day. I'm wearing my shirt with my red heart on my left side, and I have some red lipstick on. I hope it's on right. So today's video is going to talk about living with heart failure. It is a heart disease. I have two heart diagnoses. I have ventricular tachycardia and I have heart failure. So just to talk about how I was diagnosed and living with this condition and my life. Just a little bit about today is National Wear Red Day, is just to raise awareness about heart disease in women. Heart disease is one of the, I think they say, like, #1 killers of women. So it's just important that we take care of ourselves as women. We get checked up. We go to the doctor, keep up with our visits. If anything doesn't seem right, make sure you get it checked out. We're always taking care of others. We need to take care of ourselves so we're able to take care of others. So here's my journey with my heart disease. So when I was to go back a little bit further, I was born in Jamaica, the island, not Queens, and I came to America when I was 10 years old. I've always gotten like a physical or a checkup in Jamaica, and when I came to America, I got like an annual physical because we needed that for school. I got like physical and all these things. So we were living in New York. I still am living in New York. We were living in Brooklyn at the time, and I was 19 years old. I was in college, and my mom went on vacation to Jamaica, and she left me here by myself. And I went for a regular visit to the doctor, and they heard a heart murmur. So I've always had a physical since I've been in America, never missed like an appointment or anything. They heard a heart murmur, and the doctor was a little bit concerned. So he sent me for an echocardiogram, which I think I did like the next day or something. I was 19 years old. I was alone in the country. It was just because it's me and my mom who live alone in Brooklyn, and she was in Jamaica. I was in Brooklyn by myself. My sisters are in the South. So I'm like, okay, not really knowing anything about heart disease. I didn't even know what a heart murmur was. So, and at that time, like how now we're able to like Google everything, it wasn't like that. That was years ago. So I went and got my echocardiogram done, and the doctor called me in the following day after the test. And keep in mind, this is like consecutive days, like back to back to back. I didn't know the urgency of and why it was happening so fast. So the doctor told me that my mitral valve had prolapse. So I'm like, okay, like my mitral valve prolapse, what does that mean? I had a heart murmur, and the valve was leaking really bad. So when you have your anatomy of your heart, it pumps blood, the blood comes out. So my heart valve, my mitral valve, had prolapse. So when the blood was going out this way, it was going back at the same time. So it was pooling. It wasn't able to efficiently pump the blood out. So after a long meeting with him trying to explain to me the best he can, so I could understand the severity of what was happening and how bad my heart was, my mitral valve had prolapse and my heart became enlarged. He said that it looked like it's been that way for a long time because my heart was so enlarged. it got enlarged from being overwork. It's kind of overcompensating for not being able to efficiently pump the blood. So just imagine leaving the doctor's office. You're 19 years old, you're alone. I called my mom. I was hysterical, didn't know what to do. Luckily, she was coming home, I think, like within a day or two. So the next step were for me to have heart surgery, and also still didn't really know much about, you know, heart surgery and all these things. And I had the heart surgery, I think 2 weeks later. The doctor said I needed to have heart surgery right away, or I could have possibly just dropped dead at any time. That's how bad it was. And, you know, like now when we see athletes on the field playing, kids, and they just die suddenly, it's usually from an undiagnosed heart condition, which it's silent and it doesn't come up until like later on in the teen years. I was 19. Luckily, I went to that doctor's appointment and I was able to, they were able to find it. So heart surgery day, I had my first heart surgery in 2004 and it went well. Keep in mind, I had no prior symptoms. That's how it is. It's you have no symptoms. I didn't know something was wrong with me. You couldn't tell me that I was sick. So after the surgery, they replaced the valve. And when you're having a mitral valve replacement, you have two options. You have an option to have a mechanical valve, or you can have a porcine valve, which is a pig valve. So the options are mechanical valves. You're able to, you will have to take blood thinners for the rest of your life. And the likelihood of having children, I think they did not recommend being on blood thinners. And then also, I was 19 years old. I was fairly young. I wanted to have a family and I wanted to have kids. It was always my dream to be a mother. I wanted to have children. So I opted to get the porcine valve because I was fairly young. The lifespan of a porcine or a pig valve is around, it could last 10, 15, 20 years, depending on how well you take care of yourself. That plays a part in how long the valve will last. You know, you have to watch your sodium intake. You have to, don't really eat red meat, cut out a lot of things, exercise and things like that. So I got the porcine valve and I went home. And a week later, I went back into the hospital because I woke up in the middle of the night. I couldn't breathe. And I was diagnosed with heart failure. So my heart wasn't pumping efficiently and my lungs were filling up with fluid. So we had to get all the fluids out of my lungs. Like 2 really big bags of fluid came out of my lung. I don't even know where all that fluid could be in my chest cavity, but it was there, and that's the reason why I couldn't breathe at night. And that's a symptom that you know, when I'm in a lot of heart failure groups and heart disease groups, and one of the things I see a lot is women waking up in the middle of the night, unable to breathe. You can't lay flat. Those are symptoms of, you know, something is going on. So luckily we went to the hospital, and then after I was diagnosed with heart failure, I was sent home after the fluids were drained with a slew of medication, and this was in 2004. So and then in 2005, I met my now husband. We met in AOL on a chat room, and we started dating, hanging out, and you know, we had kids. So my life from 2004 to having my first child, I lived a fairly normal life for someone with a weakened heart. I followed up with my cardiologist every few months. I was very in tune with my treatment. I made sure I exercised, I stayed active and things like that. I was not able to do as much as a normal person my age would. I tire easily, even though I may not look like, you know, something is physically wrong. Like if I run, I can't run. I try to run, but I can't. I get tired really easily. Sometimes if I go up the stairs, depending on how my days are, I may get tired. So I was still young. I didn't really grasp what was really happening to me and what I've been through. I kind of just went on living my life. I had met my husband. We had our first child. We had my son. And then years later, we had my daughter. Both pregnancies were seamless. And for someone with heart failure and having children, you know, it's kind of like I was high risk. I actually felt better pregnant than not pregnant. I had no complications. I had 2 scheduled C-sections. They did not want me to push and put too much strain on my heart. So 2 C-sections. And um, not recently, in the past 5 years, I think it's something about getting older. You start to pay attention more to what your life and the meaning of life, and you just are more in tune with your body. I would say around uh, probably 5 years ago, my whole mindset just changed with having heart disease. I kind of took it hard. It's like it came out of nowhere, like, wow, I have heart failure. My heart is weak. My heart isn't normal. This is my heart. This is what keeps me alive. And I was I just changed everything. I was a super in tune with all of my symptoms, my diet. I went into a depression because it hit me. It hit me years later, and I it still hits me like every day. I think about some aspect of my heart. And I don't know if it's because I had kids, I had a family, and I had more to live for. I think that's what it is. You have more to live for as you get older, and I was worried about my children and them not having a mother, and my husband not having me here with him, and things like that. It kind of affects you in a way that you have to either seek some type of help to get through, some type of counseling. There are specific counselors that deal with people who have medical conditions, because it's something that I'm not sure how widely this is discussed, but having a chronic medical illness is, can be very depressing. And you think about dying. I don't know, for other people with chronic illnesses, I think about dying like, if I don't want to leave my kids. They're so young. They want their mother. I want to be here for them. I want to be around while they go through college and possibly be a grandparents, and be with my husband, have a long marriage. And it just makes you want to do the best you can, you know. So I really change a lot about myself. This is why when I talk about things, even on my post, my blog, I don't let anything bother me. There is nothing in this world that is going to stress me out. I already have enough internal issues that I'm dealing with to let other outside factors come in and stress me out. I try to be as stress-free. I don't really depend on anyone as far as outsiders, any validation I don't need. I do whatever that makes me happy. I try to eat healthy. I try to exercise, cut out red meat, limit my salt intake, take my medication. I do a lot of research. I take supplements and all these things to help prolong my life. I take my meds every day. I don't miss them. And this is all to, you know, help my heart. So after the first heart surgery, the kids, marriage, and everything in 2018, actually, not 2018, in 2016, I started to have a lot of palpitations, and I didn't know really where it was coming from. The palpitations would last like 3 to 5 seconds, and I went through a study where they hooked me up to a monitor for 2 weeks and tried to see if they can figure out where in my body, in my heart, that these palpitations are coming from. So after their test was done, they found out that it's coming from my ventricle, and they diagnosed me with ventricular tachycardia, which is a very dangerous form of arrhythmia. Sometimes when people just drop dead, it's from an episode of ventricular tachycardia, where your heart is not able to pump blood efficiently. Everything starts to shut down, and then you can suddenly die. So in addition to having the heart failure, which is a weakening of my heart muscles and the inability for my heart to efficiently pump blood, I had another problem, ventricular tachycardia, which originates in my ventricles, and the heart is not, it it will start to race, and sometimes these situations could last long. So as a safety net, whenever you have such a terrible arrhythmia, it's recommended that you get a defibrillator. So I have what's called a subcutaneous ICD. It's a defibrillator that's implanted right here. I have this little box right here, and it's inside, and there's two wires that goes on top of my heart. So in the event that my heart is going in one of these dangerous arrhythmias and my heart does not correct itself, if my heart rate goes up to a certain beats, the machine will shock my heart back into a normal rhythm. And I've had this since 2016, and it went off once in 2019. And I had a long day at work. I was not in the most favorable conditions where I was, and I think that contributed to me driving home that night late. It was like 2 o'clock in the morning. I felt very sick. I felt like I inhale fumes and all these things, but that night I woke up with a pain right here in my chest, and I thought that I was having a bad dream. That dream, this video could be like 30 minutes long, just me talking about it. But I woke up in the middle of the night. I immediately grabbed my blood pressure cuff. My husband jumped up. We checked my blood pressure because I didn't know what happened. I just woke up with pain. I thought I was dreaming, and someone hit me in my chest right here. And the person who hit me in my chest in my dream was my sister, who had recently passed away in the summer. And I wanted to, in my dream, I was with my sister. I wanted to go with her. And she told me no. And she pushed me in my chest right here. And I jumped up out of my sleep, and it hurt at that same moment. I didn't think anything of it. I was still going through grief of losing my sister that in the same summer of 2019. And when a week later, okay, so I had to take a break. It was a little bit too much. So, all right, so in my dream, like I said, I was with someone. I was with my sister in my dream, and I wanted to go with her, and she told me no, and she pushed me in my chest, and then I jumped up out of my sleep. And I jumped up, and I was in a lot of pain. We checked my blood pressure and everything. So with the monitor that I have, the defibrillator that I have, I transmit the recordings every few weeks to my electrophysiologist. So a few days later, it was time to transmit the data, and I transmitted it. Then my doctor called me in the evening, and he said, "Are you okay?" And I said, "Yeah, why?" He was like, "You had an episode." I'm like, "What do you mean I had an episode?" He said, "Your machine went off." I said, "What?" And he said, "Yeah, you had an episode on this date." And he said, "Do you remember it happening?" And I remember asking him, "Was it in the middle of the night?" And he said, "Yes, the exact time." And I quickly checked my blood pressure data, because every time I do my blood pressure, it gives like a timestamp. And at the same time that he said, I had the device trigger a couple minutes after that. It was when I woke up, and then I did my blood pressure. So my heart went into a dangerous arrhythmia while I was sleeping, and I passed out in my sleep. You're already sleeping, but you don't know that you're not conscious. I passed out in my sleep, almost flatlined, and if I didn't have this device, I wouldn't be here today. So I still have trouble processing that whole event, even though it was 2019. It was, I think it was September. I can't remember the date. And I'm like, was I trying to go with my sister because I felt that I was going to die or something? And my sister told me no, it wasn't my time. I don't know if it's just so surreal to me. The timing of everything, my sister passing away, me having this episode that night while I was dreaming about her, and she pushed me in the same spot that I woke up with the pain. It's just so surreal. So yeah. All right. So the defibrillator helps to save my life, and that's what it's for. If my heart goes into a dangerous arrhythmia, it will shock me back into life. And I think I jumped a whole year. So 2016, I got the defibrillator installed, surgically implanted, and it saved my life once. It does have a battery that it's up to 50% now since 2016, and then once the battery is going down, I will have another surgery to replace the battery and possibly the device to get maybe a smaller one, because it's, you know, technology is always advancing and things like that. So that was 2016. In 2018, one morning when I was going to work, I was walking to my car and I felt really short of breath. Me being so in tune with my body and knowing every symptom and everything, I know how I'm supposed to feel. I said I wasn't feeling well. I went back into my house, called my boss, told her I'm not coming in today. I'm not feeling well. Called my cardiologist. He got me an appointment right away. I went into his office. He did an EKG, and I was in AFib. Atrial fibrillation is when your heart is just beating really fast and it doesn't give your heart time to contract back. It's just like fluttering or whatever it's called, but atrial fibrillation. So he immediately started me on blood thinners. This was in 2018. He started me on blood thinners because if your heart is not able to efficiently pump like this, and it's just like you run the risk of having blood pool, and that blood could pool and clot and leads to blood clot, which can travel in your brain and your lungs and all parts of your body. So the treatment for atrial fibrillation for people who have it long term, they take blood thinners. So I went to see my electrophysiologist, the same doctors who control this device, and they did this test where they did an ablation where they put me to sleep for a few seconds and shocked my heart to get it out of the atrial fibrillation rhythm. So during that test, they had to put this camera down my throat to look at my heart. They wanted to just see what was happening. And they found out that the mitral valve that I had replaced in 2004 was leaking. And that's the reason why my heart went into atrial fibrillation. That was such a hard thing for me to take in because I had this valve for so long. I completely forgot that, all right, it's not going to last forever. But the fact that the time was here, I didn't take it well. So that was in January. I found out this whole news. I got on blood thinners and I kind of was in denial for a few months. I tried to change my diet. I paid hundreds of dollars with holistic doctors, trying to do all these other things to not have a second heart surgery. You know, when you speak to these holistic doctors, they tell you, oh, the medical, you don't need this meds. I stopped taking meds. I felt like shit. Sorry. And I just had to face it. My heart valve was leaking that they put in and told me it wasn't going to last forever. It is what it is. So I didn't end up having the second heart surgery, open heart surgery, until May. So from January to May, it was me living in denial. I couldn't do anything. I was always out of breath. It was such a bad time for me. And I've made up my mind. I said, all right, I have to get the surgery done. So second heart surgery, bam, open heart surgery. I had it, and the surgery was a little bit difficult because it was my second time. My heart is already weakened. They weren't sure how well I would bounce back from this heart surgery because with the heart muscles being so weak, they weren't sure if my heart will start back once they put it back into my body. If you don't know how heart surgery is done, so you're laying over here and your heart is on another table while they work on it and they hook you up to like a heart and lung machine. So once they put your heart back in, they have to make sure it starts to beat again on its own in your body. And we had a whole plan worked up, but luckily everything went well. They were really surprised at how well my heart bounced back, and my progress in the hospital, and I got to go home normally, and I've been living, sorry, and I've been living okay. And so in 2019, the same year that I had the little episode with my machine firing off, I later on in the year in November, I started feeling really sick, fatigue, lots of fatigue and all these other things, and I followed up with my heart failure team. So when you have heart disease, depending on what type of heart disease, there are so many different types of cardiologists. So I have a general cardiologist that manages my day-to-day meds, my day-to-day how I'm feeling, things like that. I have my heart failure team, which manages the heart failure aspect of my heart, constantly monitoring to see if I'm getting worse or if anything is improving. And then I have my electrophysiologist, which manages the electrical aspect of my heart. So, your heart, your electrical rhythm in your heart is managed by that, and they control this device. So, in 2019, I went through a slew of tests. My heart was really weak, and I started my heart failure team started the process to get me on a heart transplant list. And that right there, just hearing the word heart transplant, it freaked me out. I was super scared and still am scared. And in December of 2019, I was added to the heart transplant list at stage 6, the lower stage, because I'm able to still be out. I can be out and live my life while I wait for a heart. So I exercise as much as I can. I eat right, try to eat right, take my meds, my supplements, and since 2019 being added to the heart transplant list, I've been really good about everything that's going on. And last year in 2020, with series of what is that test called where it's called a right heart cath, where they check the pressures in your heart. They saw improvement, which shed some really good light, and it was decided that they will keep me on the heart transplant list but deactivate me because they saw progress, which I'm happy for. As much as I would love a new heart, a good heart, that idea doesn't sit well with me. And I love my old heart as weak as it is. It's my heart. I know what it's like. And to get a heart transplant, that means someone has to die. And I don't know how people who's had heart transplant like process all of that. That's just a whole nother emotional roller coaster that I don't know if I can ever deal with. But I'm trying my best to be as healthy as I can, be positive, just look on the bright side. I do my research. I'm in tune with my diet, my exercise activities, my emotional well-being, because it all plays a part in your health. I tried not to let nothing bother me, do everything that makes me happy, and that's it. And I am not active on the list right now, but I'm still on it. So knock on wood, if something were to happen and I get sicker, then they can just reactivate me and it may bump me up on the list and things like that. But in my case, to have a heart transplant, I would have to have like a really good match, because I have a lot of antibodies, which is common in African American, and especially people who've had previous surgeries or who's had children. I've had 2 C-sections and this surgery, so my antibodies are like, whew, nothing's coming in here that we don't like, So there is the risk of that. And here we are today, 2021, still ticking, heart's doing as well as it can do. And I follow up with my doctors several times a year. each one of them I see a couple times. If something doesn't feel right to me, I don't wait. I don't try to play Google what this is and figure it out on my own at home. When it comes to your heart, you have to take this seriously, because you don't want to be that person who's not that lucky to catch something, you know. Heart failure, diagnosis, ventricular tachycardia, these are all long-term illnesses that I have to live with, but it doesn't mean the end. It's not like, oh, here you have heart failure, this is it. You have to just modify how you live your life. It's just tailoring your lifestyle to help you live it as full as you still can, but in a modified way. I'm not running marathons. I can actually hike up a mountain with lots of stops. I don't overexert myself. Know your limitations, but it doesn't mean it's the end. And if we are to live our lives like that, where we're diagnosed with an illness and automatically, you know, that's it, we just create our own pity parties, then you're going to have a miserable life. You have to make the best of it. As harsh as the diagnosis seems, you have to find some good. It's all about your perspective. I'm able to have two beautiful children. I have a family. I have my little dog Snoopy, and I want to enjoy life while I can, and I'm not going to let nothing get in the way of it. I will take my meds, as how many, I think I take like 80 something pills a week, and it's just what it is. And when I'm feeling sick, I rest. When I'm down, I cry. I speak to a therapist, and I craft, I plan, I put stickers on paper and journal. It all helps me cope. So this is just my journey with heart failure. Um, and it's been a journey that has helped to mold me into the person that I am today. And I don't know if me having heart surgery and having this illness would have still, if I would be the person that I am today. I have a more positive outlook on life. I'm grateful for everything and everyone in my life. There's nothing really that can really upsets me. I may post about people being mean in my DMs and comments, but it's just to show other people that it happens to everyone, and don't let it bother you. So, yeah, this is me. I'm 36 years old. I've had 2 open heart surgeries. I have a subcutaneous defibrillator on my left side, and I have heart failure, and I have ventricular tachycardia. I'm living my life as normal as I can, and I'm making the best out of every day. I don't miss a doctor's appointment. If anything doesn't seem right to me, I'm going to the doctor to get it checked out, because anything can happen at any moment. If I'm not well, I can't take care of others. And that's what I need you to understand with yourselves, is that if you're not well, you can't take care of the people around you. When we think about, oh, I don't feel good, I'm just going to put it off. It's not just about you. It's also about your family. You know, how could your family manage without you being here? So you have to take care of yourself. And it's also about you not taking care of yourself is kind of pretty selfish, because I know there may be people in your life that rely on you, and you don't want to do anything to jeopardize your health, or to not take care of yourself, and then you're not here to take care of your family. So that is my journey through my heart failure. That I hope, if you're battling something out there, I hope that, you know, this makes you feel a little better. It's not the end. You know, live life as best as you can. Make sure you go to the doctor. And I'm wearing my red today to raise awareness. You know, heart disease is a #1 killer for women, and we should take care of ourselves, get ourselves checked out. Regular checkups at the doctor, listening to your heart, paying attention to your symptoms. If you're not able to walk from here to the end of the block without getting out of breath, that's something that needs to get checked. If you cannot lay down flat in your bed at night, if you have to sleep elevated, if you have trouble breathing, if you have swelling in your legs or your other extremities. These are all things you need to pay attention to. If you feel like your heart flutters quite often, get that checked out. Don't sit around and wait. So thank you for watching this video. I hope this video, I don't know, it was a pretty sad video, but talking about it makes me feel a little bit better. Thank you for listening and watching.